The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. Broadcasting from the studios of Radio Cardiff, you're now watching The More Show.
Welcome back to the show. Oh, wasn't that a fascinating interview there with Hugh, and much appreciation to him coming on. So our next guest for over 20 years, Eric Altman has dedicated himself to healing others through his gift of distant healing. Combined with his awakened state of spiritual teaching, his spiritual teachings are based on the idea that awakening should be simple, practical, and down to earth. One of the biggest myths of all times is that spiritual awakening and evolution are difficult. Well, let's hear from Eric. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening. Thanks, Kevin. It's nice to see you.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on. Now Eric, whereabouts are you based?
I live in Portland, Oregon, and work all over the world. I work in probably almost every country on the planet.
Wow. Okay. And have you been over to England much, or?
I have been there distant-wise as far as healing with people over there.
Okay. So, tell us about your... Well, okay, I tell you what. First of all, what does it mean to be spiritual?
Spiritual, to me, like every aspect of our lives, everything that we do, everything that we touch, everything is spiritual to me. That's just my experience.
Okay.
I think it's made kind of complicated, and it's made out of separation often, or too often, from my point of view, and again, my experience, that people talk about in like different spiritual circles of non-dual teachings and that sort of thing, but that in itself is dualistic and separating out something that is actually spiritual, that and leaving things out. Anything that, and any time that happens, we're kind of creating a discord or a differential that's not necessary.
Okay. So, yeah, because I've always found this a bit of a problem. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I say to some people, "Oh, I'm spiritual," but then today I've been thinking about it and thinking, well, what does it mean? And actually, in this moment right now, what's coming to me is for I mean, I'm just having this as a sort of a yin and yang, but to me, being spiritual means not knowingly bringing any harm to anyone, and trying to come close to that essence of love. Mm-hmm. How would you relate to that?
Just I would respond to that. Like, I mean, there could be like a so-called, I guess in that context, there could be a so-called non-spiritual person that could do the same thing, and that wouldn't maybe qualify under the same guidelines.
Yes.
I think that when we're looking at things, and then where there's a better than or right or wrong way type of thing, that then we start to, that's what creates wars in my mind.
So
whether in ourselves,
yeah,
in our circles of friends, etc.
It's interesting what you're... So really, I'm applying a label to myself. I mean, obviously, aren't I?
Right, then it seems like that gets kind of contracted, where people then they start to identify with something, and then they may want to go to, experience something different, but then they've already made themselves a certain size, so to speak, and contain themselves in this little container that it doesn't fit. It doesn't. We're much grander than that. We're never-ending beings, and so to confine ourselves is where all the angst comes from. People and disease, etc.
Do you need religion to find God?
I would say not at all. I think it could be depending just on the person's maybe tendencies. that could be a attractive feature and maybe a very good support system. But I would say it's not necessary.
Okay, okay. I mean, I suppose you could say, what is not God then?
That's what I would say. Because say if you and I were say we were born or dropped on some island and raised there by who knows by ourselves maybe, and then how would we know the difference, or who, if we saw people or we saw some things that other people might be 100% against, and we might be for that, just because we don't have the data in our mind from the collective kind of unconscious or theoretic conscious.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've raced ahead there a bit, and I'm just going to go go
Sorry
go, go put, no, it's me. I do enjoy this subject quite a bit. Okay. Well, look. How did your journey begin then? I mean, who were you prior to your awakening?
Sure. When I was 16, my father passed away. He was quite young, and passed away very suddenly. He had a heart attack kind of out of the blue. He was very fit and healthy, and something started to drive inside of me, like right after that, like say a month or so after his death, and I started just to write incessantly. I would actually even take off school and just question like everything in life. I would question. I was always inquisitive as a child, but it became more almost an obsession for a little while to, just to understand life more.
Yeah.
And so what started to happen is I started to spend much more time by myself. But what I noticed is my brain started to slow down, like just very dramatically. Like all of a sudden, after a couple months of that, my brain, it felt like it was non-existent. And then what I was writing, it wasn't anything that I knew like intellectually at all. It was just some internal insights that I recognized had always been there, and it wasn't in relationship to my age or there wasn't anything special I could see about me than the next person, a friend or relative, etc. And so that really intrigued me, and so it got so overwhelming in my brain. It just on some level it felt like it just kind of popped. And then first I just started looking like light all the time.
Yeah.
And I felt that way, and then everything that I looked at was that way, and it was a very alone time for me at that period because I couldn't talk to anybody. So that's how it started.
Okay. So you felt very, when you was going through that change, you felt very isolated in a sense, not to be able to speak to anyone about it. And do you think when others have a shift in their perception on life, like it sounds like you did, do you think they go
Yes.
through the same process?
I would imagine so, unless they're in some kind of community that's kind of supporting that. I would say it couldn't be. It was shaking to my system. Definitely, it shook me up quite a bit. Where, I had no idea of this so-called me. Where did that go? And so, but at the same time, there's some bigger sense of the self or whatever internally that was very appealing. And then I knew there was something quite right about that.
Okay, so what you're saying, I'm just trying to summarize this,
Sure.
Eric, is that, well, I suppose that you felt that there was more to this life than just the mundane, going to work and paying the bills and everything else. You felt that there was a connection with something much higher, a part of you in a sense, a connection with God, would you say?
Yeah, that's why I would call that God. Absolutely, like the kind of that represents the whole to me, like everything. The way I look at animals or trees or things like that in nature, just it took on a whole different shape and context, and it just felt like I couldn't recognize the difference between myself and things that seemingly were outside of me, and so it was bumpy for sure until I
Yeah.
just got used to this new kind of language of actually like seeing and internalizing things to myself and how I'd interpret things.
Okay, and would you say that uh, does awakening need to be difficult, for example?
I think it's a myth for sure, because that we're we're already like awake. We're already like just amazing beyond our like ability to like understand it intellectually. So it in a lot of spiritual paths and a lot of people that I know and work with, they're always working on these things to add, add to themselves or better themselves in some way, that it actually takes away from like the our um, original nature that's much grander than we could ever put on paper or read in a book.
Okay, okay. Sorry, we're just having a bit of a technical
That's
problem
okay.
here. Do apologise for that. Yes, yeah. So awakening to yourself then. If someone becomes, we use this word awake. If someone becomes more awake, spiritually awake, let's term it in that phrase.
Sure, sure.
Then is that more of a sort of a sort of loving a lovingness towards themselves as well, and
Ye-
a sort of unconditionalness to sort of accept the moment as it is.
Yeah, that's right on. From my experiences, it starts like you said. The starting point is definitely like internally. At least my experience was I noticed that right away. I could see there wasn't anything that I needed to do. There wasn't anything at all. On the contrary, that I needed to fix or improve. And it was just just to stay with myself, just to be home or be at home too with myself as I was, exactly as I was, instead of putting this human ideal on where I should be or what I should know, what I should learn, etc. That it just didn't fit anymore. There's some knowing like whatever I needed to learn, whatever I needed to experience, it would just be perfect. And there was some settling down that happened in my nervous system that went very deep, where that just became my daily experience.
Okay, okay. So okay, well, tell us about then your first experience on healing energy.
Mm. So probably before, a little bit before um, the awakening happened, like I could sense energy often, but it wasn't very dynamic. And then probably about 6 months or so, just I'm guessing kind of the time, 6 to 8 months in that range, uh, I started to pick up when people were talking, the vibration of their voice, the vibration kind of that was coming out of them, and then it could see where there was any discord in their whole humanness, in the body, in the spirit, etc. And so I started to play around with that, like to like try to like move it like one way or the other. And in the beginning, with not much success, but it was very appealing to me, that it seemed like there was supportive, just the presence with someone. People would respond oftentimes to that, just saying they felt better. There's something going on, and then I recognized all it was is they were seeing themselves. It wasn't really anything I was doing than just being me, and that just happened to be being present with the person. And so that's where the kind of the healing started, because then I
Yeah.
started to refine it more, just so I wouldn't harm anyone or do any kind of damage or anything like that. I just started to understand that in myself. So I was my own guinea pig at the time.
Right, right.
After that,
Okay. And in respects to, I mean, you just mentioned there being in the moment or being present. How do you do that? I mean, what is being present?
it now like I feel I feel like I'm here with you, and it's very interesting to me because my attention here right now. Like there's nothing or there's nowhere else that I'm interested in going.
Yes,
So
surely you must be thinking a little bit of ahead of time, no?
like right now I'm here. And so I guess when you said that, so I'm just considering the next engagement with you as we're speaking kind of in increments. And so I'm here with that. I'm not thinking about actually I don't even know what I'm doing later. Like I have no idea.
That's
I will, like when I
Yeah.
get done, say with this, when I get done, I'll have to sit down and kind of actually start to kind of pull that in, like what time am I supposed to meet somebody else, etc. And so that's kind of typical for me. Like sometimes I get home at 3:00 in the morning and I have no idea. I don't have an idea of time ever. Yeah.
Okay, well, Eric, we're just going to take a quick break there, and we'll be right back after this.
The Moore Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the Moore Show website.
The Moore Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
Welcome back to the show. I'm currently joined here with Eric Altman, and we're discussing his spiritual awakening and evolution. Eric, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's a real pleasure to have you on, and I mean, this is the great thing about this show is that we get to meet such a diverse, interesting range of fascinating people like yourselves, and yeah, I mean, me and my partner were my producer actually were talking about this earlier on in the day today actually about being present, and she was saying, right now I'm trying to, think about the guests I've got to book on, and I've got to do this. And if I was present, just thinking about the moment right now, I wouldn't be able to structure myself to get on with the next thing. But you don't seem to have that problem.
That's true. Sometimes that comes up, I would say, but 95% of the time it's not an issue. Like I'm not. There's nothing that pulls me, I guess, in that direction. Yeah.
So how would you what recommendations should I say would you give to the audience listening to this in the sense of staying present? I mean, how do you start? Is it through breathing? Is it through meditation, yoga?
I mean, I think all those things are they're quite amazing, like adjuncts, and I believe in and experience like totally that just accept myself like just exactly as I am. And I think that's where like the spiritual part it kind of goes against the grain of our inherited humanity. And so we're here having this human experience, but then we try to be like something different than a human. And so in that there's some friction that's created that we always have to kind of be getting better or practicing this or doing something. This is quite like tension oriented, and I don't see a lot of people when they're happy doing that. But the interesting in the presence is generated by just accepting like what is all the time, what is there, like completely and fully accepting that, and the things you can accept about yourself, just accept that too.
Yeah, that's the difficult part. I mean, I meet a lot of people, who do some great work. Don't get me wrong. Yet that that core of self-love is missing, and yet they do tell me that that's what we come down to planet Earth for, is to learn to love ourselves and others.
Right.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely true, and it's just for me that I talk about awakening. It's a function of subtracting kind of these ideals or ideas that we've been kind of injected with or taken on, however you want to put that. But it's just like I say that just allowing ourselves, since we're here, like I said, being humans and just kind of uh, in I guess in the name of that, like I said again, that we try so hard to be something different. And so of course it's almost impossible then to accept that, because we're actually not. What are we accepting actually?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
does that make sense? Because we're not, we're trying to strive for something, and so we're kind of split. So it's hard to accept that splitness.
Yes. Yeah, well,
So,
it's like if I was gonna, if I just be more in the present right now, just as a demonstration to people, that's all. I could right now be
yes,
speaking to you and worrying about it in the other half of my brain, worrying about money. But yet, in the moment right now, in the actual present moment right now, money's okay.
yes, yes,
I've actually got enough. I mean, okay,
yeah,
in a week's time, maybe not, but in the moment now,
right.
yes.
Mhm.
You resonate with that, don't you?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's so, and then just to be with that all the way. And it's since it's our nature, it's like pulling us there all the time. And again, that's where the friction comes and the worry and that sort of thing. Because there's the huge part of us, 85% of us at least, is trying to like just stay here. And then that other part that needs to kind of get better and do things, etc., doesn't know that when we drop that, we actually become much more efficient. Our worry level goes down to almost zero, and there's this natural inherent worries or like reactions that come from being a human. And so just to recognize that is very potent, and
Yes.
it's easy to subscribe to then, because there's actually no downside to that.
Yes, and you keep mentioning the word we're a human being, and
Right.
that last word, that last part of it, being,
Yes.
we are being present, we are being this, I mean, I think it sort of sums up to the core of what we are, doesn't it not? Or
Yes, no, that's right on. I love that, because just that's what I'm all about, kind of, and all the people I've worked with, and just the teachings of that people. That's why I think a lot of people gravitate towards what I'm doing, just so kind of to relax, that they don't they don't have to be other than what they are as a human, just a human, a human being, and then and being that, we're gonna come up against a myriad of things. All of us are, and so just accepting that. And I don't say that in a passive way. It's just
no?
more, it takes a lot of courage just to accept things as they are. And it doesn't
Yes,
mean that you're not, we're not going to make good decisions with our mind and use our mind for what it's made to do. And of course we're going to do that. But in the midst of all that, what we're rooted in is just our own being. And so it's quite amazing, like what happens. We start attracting things that support that in us, and then these other things that we worry about, they're way on the periphery, and they don't get them they don't get done by themselves. But the effort that it takes, for me to like get through the day,
yeah,
is pretty minimal. I mean, yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at the magnitude of what people worry about sometimes, and the numerous conversations we have about the problems that we've got and everything else, it's again, I won't keep going on about it, but it's coming to that central
No.
point of in the moment now. What in the moment now is the
Yeah.
problem? There isn't.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah, it's
doesn't
beautiful.
mean that we ignore our emotions, does it? Does it not? I mean, if
No,
we're no,
that's it's such a great point, because a lot of like spiritual teachers that I know, and that are very well known throughout the world, and that, so and just their um oh gosh, who knows how long, like centuries of teachings that 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 it doesn't allow us to do that. It doesn't, we always have to be kind of this striving to like get to the next step of whatever that may be. And there's no end to that. It's a nightmare. It's a living nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But what you're saying there is don't ignore our emotions. If you're angry, yeah, it's okay to be in that moment. But
Oh,
is it of
yeah.
any good to us to act like that? I mean, do we have to be aware of what that anger could be, doing to others in that moment as well?
No, I think, like I have a background in in two honorary doctorates in psychology.
Right.
One in human potential, and another one just typical psychotherapy. Excuse me.
Yeah.
um, Pardon me. And so the most important thing I think that I can support other people with is just that is yeah, when you say you get mad or I get mad, I'll just use myself for example, and I feel, I might say something, I might swear, and so then at the same time I laugh right on the heels of that. I'm laughing, and it's very sweet. I can feel the sweetness in myself when that happens. It's a very natural human reaction. It's what I do. If I didn't do that, what would happen is like there would be a buildup inside of me,
Right.
and then later on I would probably really explode at something that wasn't proportionate, and then I look like a crazy guy, and then everybody around me would reflect that back, and then it's giving me the signal, don't be a human, don't be just a human being.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, in our day-to-day living, we have monetary problems. If you look at the news, it's very heavy. How do we not get consumed by all this? Is meditation a good way of just maintaining a balance? And is balance
I
important?
think absolutely. I think there's it's a very useful tool, and and again, I want to keep driving back to that. What the the most beneficial piece here is just that being yourself take yourself wherever you go.
Yeah, and love
Because
yourself.
that the learning, yeah, because well, that I think people will try to like go to that right away, but just bringing yourself along, your full being along with you, it will actually like that will just happen organically. So we don't have to try to like, because then that it kind of goes against almost our nature. Like it's not, yeah, nature out of it doesn't mean it's not natural, to like force, I have two sons, and to force one of them to like love me, it would be ridiculous. but
Yes.
naturally they do. Just I was, giving to, to their own devices, and just because our connections, not because I'm their father, it's just because of the connection that we have with each other, and so out of that is born this love for each other, and it's just that simple.
Yes, yes, yeah. Um, and okay, okay. Let's just summarize meditation then, because I just want to get that summarized. How
Mhm.
important? I mean, how many times a day do you meditate, and is it important?
Mm. I would say I meditate once in the morning for probably about an hour, and then in the evening about the same. And then some days I go a couple days without that, just because just a lot of the work that I'm doing, I'm in that state already. And then whether I'm healing, at a distance with 200,000 people, or something of that nature, I'm getting in quite a different state, very calm, and there's
Right.
no, my brain waves go down to zero pretty much. And so, but I would say just for to keep healthy of the mind kind of body connection, I would say it's definitely maybe just at least a half an hour a day for sure, and then just feel your own self out. I would recommend to people.
Right. Oh,
How
okay.
does that work?
No,
Yeah, is
no,
that effective?
that's no. It's. I mean, it's what feels right as well. I suppose what you're saying does resonate
Yeah.
a lot with with trying to maintain that balance, and that's that spiritual path. And it's not saying to be a goody two shoes, neither is it? I
No.
mean,
No, on the opposite. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think we overdo that because then and why, again, like why that creates trouble in us is because it's not our natural flow. And
no,
so when we try to be that goody two shoes, man or woman, it's like there's some, we're holding back human reaction. So that again, it becomes a time bomb. Then we overreact to something, and it acknowledges, like, see, I shouldn't say what's on my mind.
yeah.
I shouldn't express myself.
But you should
But
do.
the fact is,
Yeah.
but there's a little detail we left out. We've held on to something for 2 months and it blew up. So it's just not like we're not telling ourselves the whole picture, or not letting ourselves in on the whole package when we judge ourselves that way.
Yes, when we judge ourselves that way, yeah, that's right, that's right. Gosh, there's so many ways I want to move into this interview. But I think what I'm going to do is, we're coming up to an ad break now here, Eric. So
Sure.
if you just stay tuned, and we're going to get more into your healing, and how we can heal ourselves as well, and just so much more on some of the work that you do. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The Moore Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The Moore Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The Moore Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
Welcome back to the show. I'm currently joined here with Eric Altman, who's discussing his spiritual awakening and his evolution. And we've been discussing some, I think, fascinating threads of his work. Eric, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It's a very much of a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Eric, just in the ad break there, I noticed that you were meditating, and the question popped into my mind straight away, thinking, actually, do we actually need a special meditation room to do such a thing, or can we just meditate anywhere?
Personally, I just meditate anywhere. It's just a nice. As soon as I close my eyes and just breathe, put my attention on my breath, like I just feel the earth right away, and it feels like you would go to a gym and work out type of thing, but it's so efficient like that. If I close my eyes for 1 minute, it's like a very regenerating.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So one I would recommend to people oftentimes when they start to meditate, don't try for so long. Maybe just if you can get 10 minutes in a way that feels like where your mind's not wandering too much, and then just keep kind of upping that a little bit until you find your own sweet spot where you kind of connect fully kind of with yourself.
Okay. Now, I mean, I don't know too much about you. Now I don't know. Now you do workshops, is this right? You do workshops, and you're not a published author, are you?
No, I'm actually just writing my first book. I've been, it's interesting because since I started to read about spiritual things and teachers, etc., and then at a very young age, I was very inquisitive, so I'd read all the time. But in that sense, it didn't really match my experience after my head started changing and my experience started changing. I was reluctant to write anything, and so. But I started to put something together about 3 months ago. It'll be done in about 2 months, I think.
Excellent.
Yes, like simple kind of things. Also, we're talking about now that other authors are looking at and supporting me in that, and I'm just getting advice since I haven't done that before. So
yes, absolutely.
I'm real active. Like what I do. So I'm working with people about 12 hours a day typically. And I work with a lot of homeless people around the world. Here in Portland, where I live, I'm out on the street pretty much every night, about 6 nights a week. I would say, like 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, just in supporting people, and so it's what I love to do.
No, that's really beautiful. You know, I mean, helping the homeless and anybody that's in need, because
Right.
I suppose to you, you would see that homeless person as being you, in a sense that there is no separation between any one of us. We are all from the same place.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful. It's so true. And then there's so when that happens, and then everything else in life, it just becomes pretty pretty doable.
It changes your
Yeah.
your space, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah, it really does. And for me, it's one of the things I enjoy the most, just kind of being out at night. I like that for some reason, and then connecting with all these people. Like you said, I don't see a difference, and I think, wow, these people are quite amazing. Like, this is a path they chose, and it's like, thank God, like I'm not really interested in living out here, but I like to go out and hang out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you, is that how you see life? That, you know, we all come from the same source, and
Yes.
we're in a sense, I am you, you are me.
Yes, absolutely. Like today, like I'm learning more about myself, like being here with you, and so so every person I meet that I haven't met before, it's like I've never met anyone just like you before. So it's really like I'm pulled in and I'm intrigued, and
Yes.
there's no more to it than that.
Yes, but obviously, when you had this shift in perception, this spiritual awakening, as we'll call it, um, you must have questioned, not just life but death as well.
Then that became just part of the process. Yeah, there was no like fear around that at all. And it sometimes actually when I get a little spread a little bit too thin, it seems like kind of a nice place, like where it'd just be, okay, I've done my stint here, so I'm ready to move on somewhere else. And so I think it's just the human nature of being in kind of embodying this vibration a little bit, that yeah, sometimes I'm ready to like move on. But it doesn't feel like it's not out of a depressed state or anything like that. It's just sometimes, it's like anything. It's just like it's a human. I'm a human having this experience here, and it happens to be a little taxing at times. It happens to be a little um, uh, challenging for sure. And
Yeah,
then, but
yeah.
everything else, I would say, 85% of the time, I feel very fortunate and very blessed to be able to like connect with people for my job. Is quite amazing to me.
Well, do you think the challenges in life are where the growth is?
100%. Yeah. I mean, you or me or anyone else, is like we're always being kind of served. I would say it's very precisely like what you need or what I need, like for me to keep expanding, for you to keep expanding. It couldn't, we're not going to do it of our own volition. We're not going to, we might say that, but the truth is, until like just being a human it'll take some, like a push, or it might even start hurting a little more until we receive or take in enough pain until we make a shift. When we start to become more aware, then we realize our threshold, and realize that we don't have to have that much pain before we kind of look a different way and take another path.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Do our lives have to be so hard? Do they have to be so painful? It's like there's no choice sometimes. We have to go out to work because otherwise, our families aren't going, are going to struggle. We want to do the best for everyone else, but are we doing the best for ourselves sometimes? But how can you put yourself first when you've got a family? There's all these questions that arise
Sure.
from it.
But I think that, then I guess, the energy could go into that creativity. Then if it is really so that it reaches a threshold where someone feels like I need to make a change because of my relationship with my wife and my kids and that sort of thing. So if it's earnest, I mean, people will make a change, and they'll be creative, and there's plenty of, you know, opportunities, obviously, to like do different things that we can come to,
Yes,
you know, to meet ourselves in a place where we can, yeah, enjoy our experience here on life every day.
well, you know, I suppose then, do we trust us? Whether, you know, it comes down to that self, you know, that trust and that self-love again. You know, if we wanted to do something outside the box of what we think is the right, you know, sometimes what you know, we care what others think of us or what we're going to do or whatever it may be. There's not that trust in ourselves sometimes, is there, to, you know, go and live the life that we should be living. I mean, you know.
Right. What for me is, I guess, is, you know, like it's integration now of the God and myself, or the God and you. It's not this. There's no difference there. You know, you're just the embodiment of that, and as I am too. And so, in that, it's like, you know, it's not jumping off a bridge and seeing if I can dive and make it to the water type of thing. You know, that would be foolish. So it's using our own good judgment, but also to jump into ourselves fully. And then when that happens, it's interesting. Then we're put in a place where we're exposed to many people in a myriad of ways, just like what the work that you're doing here. Like, then you're being exposed, and you're exposing other people to who knows how many people, you know, in a year's time. And then it's just quite amazing when you just look at the reality of that, and you're touching so many people in this way that, so you're put there, and then you chose to like play this role for, you know, whoever knows. I mean, you know, that could last another 10 days or 10 years or whatever.
That's right. And that comes back to a question I asked you before, and I didn't really get the answer on it, to be honest. And it's something I think that's important is, you know, obviously after the shift, you know, were you scared of dying after this shift?
No,
is there such a thing as death?
Just our body goes away, but we don't die. There's no, our spirit just keeps going. You know, we'll incarnate, and that's what I see. Like, it's like, if in meditations and that sort of thing, if I go look for something, I'll find it. It's how it works, I guess, that way. And so it's pretty easy to see. And that got kind of not so interesting to me after the first year or so, because you know, it was taking kind of the fun out of what I was doing. And so, it's almost like most of the time it's not fun to know the answer, for sure. But the death, then you can see, it's like, it happens so quick. I mean, we're here like in less than just a snap. I mean, our life, whether we live to be 150, it's just a blink.
You're right. You're so right there. You know, as I get older, you know, and I'm only 34 now, but I cannot believe how, you know, in you know, 15 years, I'll be getting, you know, near 50, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, this is not supposed to happen that quick, and it does. You are right. It's like in the blink of an eye, and, you know, we have to make, you know, the most of our life now. And I think by your work, living in the moment, you know, you're making the most of that moment.
And then so it's the time, how it's perceived, at least, and it feels like, in fact, too, the time just feels slow. And there's enough room to do everything in a day. Yeah. Plus, you know, it just, and the quality of it just goes way kind of off the chart in a way. Yeah.
Is that right?
Because then because we're here, you know, together, and so this is what I'm doing right now, and so this feels like the whole day. I can't discern like what is today, you know, what has today, and then what's here right now.
So you found all these benefits by just, you know, being in the moment, and not. I mean, so would you say you've eliminated worry?
No, worry always comes. I mean, again, like, those are human traits, and so worry will come up. It's always our response to whatever the stimulus is. So the stimulus could be like, I'm worrying about, I don't know, one of my kids, you know, and or whatever, you know, just the typical things in the atmosphere that we live in, you know, bills and all those sort of things. And so my response to it is kind of, I play. It's very playful, I would say. Like in, if I start thinking about, oh, do I have enough money for my kids, for this and that, and I just laugh because I've never been at a loss for anything.
No.
But I'm not. It's not my goal in life. It's just my goal is to do what I'm doing, and if I started not enjoying it, I would just, wherever that led me to, that's where I would go.
Okay.
I think too many people have their ideas about, I'm going to do this, but then they get very rigid, and so that's where the heartache comes in a lot of times.
Or I have to complete this by this age, or do this by then. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's just that's then the stress just keeps building on those things.
And where's the happiness in all that?
There isn't any. In that kind of viewpoint and that kind of way of perceiving our life, is there's, we might squeeze out some happiness, but really that's very small as opposed to I would just say, like, my life is probably 95%. Like, I feel very, like, joyful and happy and but not, it's not like irresponsible. It's hard.
No,
It's a nice balance there. Yeah.
And when my partner wakes up in the morning, she, there are times when I catch her being very grateful for everything, just thanking the universe, and
that's sweet.
Yeah, and it kind of rubs off on me as well, and that whole attitude of of being grateful for everything you have, even though it may not be what you want right now, but just to accept the present moment, even in everything that surrounds you, is important as well.
Yes. Because what happens is then there's a gate that kind of opens internally in you, and then because you become a bigger and bigger representative of the truth, and so it's so simple that people were just trained almost to step over, excuse me, and it's like, it has to be hard. It's got to take a long time. It's got, all these, like, tension things in there, and steps that always cause anxiety, worry, etc. And it doesn't have to be that way. It's really just being, like, yourself, and watching, like, your partner, you were saying, like, just being grateful for right now.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
when she's a messenger like that, again, she's going to be, like, introduced to platforms that she can keep demonstrating that more, which will enhance what is already happening in her and in you.
Okay.
So there's this flow that we get into. Then we it's unrecognized. I mean, it's just so it hits us so easy that we get it. It's like then we start to wake up more and more and more.
Okay, Eric, well, we're going to just take a quick break there, so stay tuned. Okay, well, I'm speaking to Eric Altman, and he's talking about his spiritual awakening and evolution, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. Broadcasting from the studios of Radio Cardiff, you're now watching The More Show.
Hey, good morning, welcome back. Currently joined here with Eric Altman, and we've been discussing his spiritual awakening and evolution. Eric, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Yes, great being here.
Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Now, Eric, what can people expect from heart field distant healing, and what is heart field distant healing as well?
The healing itself is like it started, like I said, when I was quite young, but then probably in the last 10 years, my heart was always like, or in the heart area was always hot, and it seemed to be getting more, more expansive around this area, kind of this up in my chest, and actually around my back too. So the energy that would come through me a lot of times came through my third eye, and I could focus that. And so I started shifting that down to my heart, and I could go out. And that's when I started to, I think it was some of my family in different parts, uncles and aunts and that sort of thing, and cousins.
Yeah.
So I was doing distant healing with, and I tried to get them in different places on the planet. And so I started to use that energy, and it was so powerful compared to like what I was doing before. And it just carried so much, and so far, and very precise as well. So I started developing that from my heart. Then I started doing research and seeing, the field. I could feel it around me all the time, the heart chakra, and just the field around the heart. But I was always fascinated in kind of the physics of it. And so, so I started terming it heart healing originally. And so then I turned it into heart field healing and transmission. So it's kind of one of the same as transmitting the energy to you. If you were sitting on the moon,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're on the moon or in Portland, Oregon with me. And so it started being the feedback I would get was always like kind of precise, and like it was hitting what the person was wanting, etc. And so now I just, like, if you wanted something, or you're trying to work with something inside of your body, mind, etc., and then I could play with that and actually just support you. So it's like I make it in that way. It's like programming in a way, and then send it to you, and then just keep flowing with that, and then I start integrating that into your system. So I kind of disguise it, so all of a sudden it becomes yours, and then you're doing it by yourself. And so I don't want that kind of that false power in that way. So it's like empowering people. And so then when that started happening more, I realized there was like always, there was just some abundance of energy that I could do that all day long. And so
it's kind of like that, thoughts have the power as well. If we think it, then it becomes it.
Right. If I was to connect with you in that way right now, if you set the intention in your mind to receive, all of a sudden that opens the door. If my intention is to receive this healing energy from Eric Altman, and then that opens the door. So I'm sending you this energy, and then you can receive it, like, probably in less than a minute or quicker than that most of the time.
Incredible.
And yeah, it's really fun. It's like, because there's no it doesn't have. Someone called me in there. It was a friend of mine called me driving in New York, and I had just done an interview there, and I was flying home. But I got home, and he called, and so he was driving down a freeway, and he didn't believe in this stuff anyway. So he's with his girlfriend, but she got sick, and so he said, "Can you help my girlfriend out? Because we're supposed to go on vacation." So I said, "I will when you get to the hotel." So I just said that on purpose, and so then I could so they wouldn't have their mind on that. So I was able to connect with her right away, and by the time they got to the hotel, she was fine. And then he called me and said, "No, we're okay. She's fine. That we don't need your help anymore." I said, "Well, that's good. Have a great vacation."
But you had already given the distant healing as part of the process. That's okay.
Right, because I could tell also, like, I feel like she was a little bit skeptical of it.
Yeah.
And so I thought one way is just to kind of blow it off, like, oh, this is, I'll catch up with you later. So that kind of, her defenses dropped down, and then she was wide open.
Do you find that females are normally more receptive to this work than males?
I would say, yeah, I think that's probably like 65-35. Yeah, if I put it in a percentage.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah. I think that, just like I think it's just like kind of mind brainwashing of sorts. Like that it's okay for like women to be more open and soft and like to receive, and than it is for males. I think it's just kind of an old kind of pattern in our societies around the planet. And so it's like for males, then like that we should be able to do everything ourselves.
Okay. No, this is, I mean, this is, there's so many questions I want to ask you. Um,
Yeah.
but obviously, we're pressed for time right now as well. So, issues then, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of this distant healing work can heal issues as well. Actually, just before we get on to issues, do we all have the power, to heal ourselves? I mean, put the distant healing work to one
Yeah.
side for a minute. If we are
Yeah.
ill, how does your work help us heal ourselves?
Sure, sure. So once, uh, yeah, because a lot of times that's what I do is like help people to like just teach them to like you said. And so really it's just when we get out of our way, like I've been talking about, just accepting ourselves, the flow of energy starts to like move through our system in a way that it just doesn't, unfortunately, because we're so tied up in our mind. And when people have something at stake, like an illness, or they could, have cancer or something, whatever they contracted, but when that starts happening, they actually are willing to let go because the stakes are a lot higher. And the interesting thing about it, so the energy in our body left to its own devices, it starts to heal everything inside of that. And yeah, there's many like things published on that as well. And one thing I could say about that, my mother, she contracted Alzheimer's, and she had a myriad of things. She had a heart problem. She's like 92 now, but she contracted that when she was about 79, and she had cancer and all these things. And today, she doesn't have anything. It all went away in about a year, and the rest of my family, they couldn't figure it out. And I said, she forgot about it. She didn't have any attention on it, and she forgot about it, and her body flows better than it ever has. And she's totally healthy from that point of view, but her mind, the Alzheimer's, wasn't like it didn't affect that as far as the healing part of it.
Okay, so she still suffers from the Alzheimer's.
But everything else, all
Yeah,
the other things that had been with her for like 20 or 30 years,
yeah,
they left her body.
yeah. Well, no, I
And
mean
I
that.
can see, like, I have a bit of seeing, so I mean, I can see around, even with your picture, I
Yes.
can see like colors around. For her, I could see the colors change from like a little bit of darkish kind of brown into like a pinkish light,
Ah.
probably about half a year into the Alzheimer's. And then, so I thought that, oh, in my mind, I said that right away, but I didn't tell, just my family thinks it's kind of a little odd what I do. And
Well, yeah, yeah. I
I mean,
mean, I
they
mean,
like,
have they been quite supportive of your work, or have you found a bit, you found it difficult at times? I mean, obviously you're all getting on and talking and stuff, but I mean,
yeah.
that must have been a bit, I don't know what that would feel like to have my family to find my work, not to be supportive. You've seemed to have, stayed, you worked your way through it.
Yes, I would say like that in the beginning it was a little bit there was a little tightness there for sure.
Hmm.
And um, what happened is it turned I chose to turn that into fuel, and then I realized it was just for whatever reason that came into my being, and so it was to be used, and so I couldn't deny that. So I thought, this is going to be with me, I imagine, so I need to like stand up for it. And when I did, it was something else started to happen beyond that. That actually the field of my energy got bigger as well, and then that kind of even created a more expansive state. And so what happened in turn? They started coming around me, and not really asking questions, but really embracing me, and not what I was doing. So that was totally fine and is fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to issues now. I mean, um, from people that I've spoken to, spiritual people, authors as well. We seem to have come to planet Earth to help
Yes.
heal certain issues that we bring with us. Okay, this is
Hmm.
just the consensus it seems to be.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's your views on? Okay, then let's go. Do you have any issues?
Um, I don't have any issues right now.
No. Okay.
I don't have any, yeah, I don't have anything that I could probably, it's funny because I started to make up something. I could feel my brain start to make up something, but, no, that's funny.
No, there is no issues there at all. But don't you think, though, that some of these spiritual people, leaders as well, in their field, that they surely have some issues they're working through?
Well, I would say like there's like what I mentioned earlier, alluded to, is like that. I think what happens because it's not accumulating in me. Like say today I had, maybe I'm just gonna take a wild guess, maybe like 3 or 4 reactions in my life to different stimuli outside, right? And so, but when I do, I just kind of pay attention to that, and it's like it's not getting inside of me, so to speak, and so that it doesn't have an opportunity to start building into something that's not there. So there's not a foundation inside, so I don't attract a lot of that into my life. Then there's, because like will attract like, and so if there's a bunch of, like a magnetic field. So if I have this old worry that I'm kind of feeding all the time, yes, so I guess that's a better way to put it. I'm not a target for that, and so it doesn't land on me.
I see. So what you're saying is, like attracts like, in the sense. Right. So you're only going to attract in the universe what you mirror or put out there.
Right. And so if I'm not worrying in the, as I get up in the day, and then, but if someone comes and shoves me off the curb, I'm going to feel pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And then and that's the end of it. You know what I mean? It's like, there's just no energy for me about that. It's just like, that's what happens, and I'm alive and I'm fine.
Absolutely, and you've been a really fascinating and interesting interview, and I'm really glad I got you on, actually, because how can people find out more about yourself as well?
I have a website, it's ericaltman.com.
Okay. And okay, well, what we'll do then is we will link your website to this show, and again, people can listen back to this podcast and also view the video on YouTube and on the More Show website itself. So, well, I'd just like to say, Eric Altman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate you, and then in this show, it speaks a lot about you. So it's for me, it's really happy supporting. Feels happy to support you and what you're doing. So that's great. So,
well, thank you so much. That's very nice, very kind of you. Okay, well, I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, well, that was interesting. That was Eric Altman there, and well, I've had an interesting first show. That's all I can say, and very grateful for us broadcasting this one. And there'll be many more to come. Now, don't forget that we also go out on Wednesday at 1 to 4, and on Friday as well. And again, you can find out more information on upcoming guests by going to www.themoreshow.co.uk and follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get the latest updates on past and present shows. Well, until next time, thanks for listening.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.